Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight?
As I just remarked to you, it looks like we watched the wrong game tonight. Looks like a Canada-Mexico game was a really thrilling game. Canada beat Mexico. I guess Canada's now in first place for the Northern Western Hemisphere conference. And is in the World Cup, I'm guessing. Like I haven't followed it that closely, honestly. But
the top three go to the World Cup, and now after eight out of 14 games, Canada's sitting in first place, so they're in a very good spot.
It's not driver's seat.
Yeah, that's definitely where they are now. Two wins in Edmonton. Bit of a shocker for those fellows from Mexico to experience Edmonton weather in mid-November, especially this weather.
They'll probably be complaining bitterly in Mexico how unfair that is. But how many times does Canada have to play in 30, 35 degree weather, right? Like, we're not used to that. So turnabout is fair play, my Mexican friends.
They schedule games at like the hottest time of the day, right? Azteca Stadium is in Estadio Azteca is in high above sea level. Like, there's a lot of disadvantages. They were calling Commonwealth Stadium Stadio Azteca.
I didn't see a minute of it. Maybe I'll go back.
Hardy fans that were out there tonight, and good on you for getting out to support your national team. I like it.
I love it. Yeah,
and you made a good choice to watch that instead of this hockey game, just to get us back on point.
Yeah. So the Oilers' grudge match against the Winnipeg Jets doesn't turn out to be much of a grudge at all. Bruce, we'll just get right into it.
Yep.
This is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers. But I just think I got to start with a bad thing.
Okay.
I've remarked on this before. I'm doing it again tonight. When a goalie lets in a stinker goal early in the game, you hardly ever see the team recover and come back and win. You hardly ever see it. And I was thinking maybe tonight will be different. This is a different Oilers team, right? This is a team that can score a lot of goals. So there's a slightly different dynamic when you have that kind of offensive power. They could easily have come back and got a quick goal. But when they did get some great chances, they couldn't score. So my first bad thing was Mikko Koskinen letting in that outside shot. Outside the top of the faceoff circle, he obviously easily should have had that shot, and it dribbled in. He otherwise was actually not bad this game at all. He was peppered with 14 grade A shots. He let, of the grade A shots, he only let in 3 of them, which is not bad when you get 14. If you just let in 3, that's okay goaltending at least. But everything went sour after that, and the Oilers. It just takes the life out of your team for some reason, and maybe there's examples that people can think of, even with the Oilers, where they've come back and won those games, but I can hardly think of any.
You get one back and it goes away, but they didn't bother to get one back until the third period. And the fact is that the Winnipeg netminder played better than the Edmonton netminder tonight, and that's a theme that we saw in the playoffs last year. Even when the Edmonton goalie played pretty well, Connor Hellebuyck played better, and he was comfortably. He made a number of big saves for the Jets, and Koskinen did make some good saves, but Oilers were behind the whole game, and a big part of the reason was that early stinker. I thought he tried to catch it. It went through he didn't get his glove down. It went through his legs, through between his, upper legs. And then I thought it was going so slowly. I thought he was just going to swing around and get his paddle on it. And he brought his paddle down on the wrong side of the puck. And if there's one play where Mikko Koskinen is going to burn, whatever goodwill that he's built up this year, which is a lot, if he wants to burn it all in one play, first shot of the game, let in one like that. He's going to have people on his case tonight, and I'm going to defend him, but only to a degree. That it sucks being a goalie sometimes, and one of those times when you make a friggin' blunder like that, and you can't hide.
It's
Like,
just he's got to fight back, and he actually did fight back pretty well, and he was okay. If Hyman had two absolutely fabulous scoring
yeah.
chances, like just the highest level of scoring chances off of a McDavid feed, and then on a rebound on I think it was a Draisaitl shot, or yeah,
Mhm.
early in the second, and it was 2-0. That if he had scored on either of those goals, we might have had a game. But
Mm.
Hellebuck stopped both of those really, 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 really great scoring chances. Bruce, what's your first bad
With,
thing?
well, just one last, just to paraphrase the great Jacques Plante, the former Oiler who's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He once asked a reporter, "How would you like it if your job was if you made one mistake that 15,000 people all yelled at you and threw, I think, crap at you or words to that effect?" It's a fairly famous quote, and I haven't got it word for word, but that was Jacques Plante describing the plight of the goaltender. And I'm pretty sure lots of crap was thrown Mikko's way after that one, and you know, it's hard to argue with. I mean, that's a tough one to be given up in a game where you would think this would be a game where Edmonton would have come out popping. So,
Here's the
Mike,
quote. Here's the Jacques Plaque quote.
okay,
I just Googled it, so that
yeah,
was my typing sound was. Okay,
yeah.
quote. How would you like it if how would you like it in your job if every time you made a small mistake, a red light went on over your desk,
Right.
15,000 people stood up and yelled at you? Well, with
Yeah,
Twitter, it's kind of like that now, I
yeah,
guess. Like,
yeah.
say one
Well,
wrong
Jake the
thing on
Snake.
Twitter, man, and you get 500 people. You could get 50 to
uh,
500 people yelling at you all at once. So,
Jake the
all right,
Snake was a pretty neurotic fellow. Uh, so bad thing. I get to do a bad thing now.
yeah, go
Okay, let's
ahead.
morph right off that bad start and talk about the Oilers' bad starts, of which this is now 6 games in a row where they let in the first goal of the game, and they've been fighting uphill. They've done, you could say they did well to win 3 out of 6 games, but they got, 6 points in 6 games. That's actually falling back in the NHL. If you're never getting loser points in your losses, then you better be winning more than you're losing, right? Because Calgary, every time they lose, they get a point. Did again tonight.
Yes.
And so twice this week, both teams lost, and Calgary gained 2 points on Edmonton. Anyway, it's tonight. It was, you can say it was Koskinen, but every night you can say, well, somebody wasn't ready, or somebody screwed up, or the team wasn't sort of really on the jump right off the beginning of the game. On the road trip, we count high danger shots. And I haven't had time to add up the shots on net and that kind of thing. High danger shots. 5 first periods on the road trip, 15-4, 31 against, 15-31. I mean, wake up
That's terrible.
call, wake up call. Memo to Oilers. Game time is 6 o'clock Mountain. Don't be late. Tired
Yeah.
of it. Tired of it.
Yeah.
I got no. Once in a while it's going to happen. 6 games in a row. That's just not good enough.
With their high scoring offense, I wonder, and then they played some tougher teams. I just wonder how dialed in they were in terms of how sharp they had to be defensively. And I think they were surprised, I think, in these games about how it changes when you're playing tougher teams on the road and you're used to scoring a lot of goals and that's your mindset. And now you got to change things up a bit. Now you got to crank it up on defense. And they were unable to do so in these games, as indicated by that first period play. And one of the people who failed to crank it up tonight was the usually reliable Darnell Nurse, who's been playing fantastic this year. He's my second bad thing. I thought he had probably his worst game of the year. He was a culprit on. He was a major culprit on 5 grade A shots against at even strength. Um,
Yeah.
he played a lot of. He had a lot of ice time, but he was not close to getting it done. He just wasn't sharp defensively at all. Let me just see what I had in his. I've already posted the game grades. Turnover on the first Dubois shot, beat again on a dangerous chance by Dubois on the third. Yeah, he was at the center of a lot of the bad things that happened out there. And the Oilers are going to win and be a strong defensive team. That can't happen.
Yeah, Darnell, I thought his whole road trip was fairly so-so. He's bouncing back and forth between partners, but that shouldn't matter if you're the number one defenseman on the team. The team needs to be winning your part of the game, and you need to be winning some battles and, moving the puck in the good direction. And every game he makes good plays, and every game he makes bad plays, but lately the bad has been more outnumbering the good, and, that too is not really good enough.
Your second bad thing, Bruce?
Yeah, I got to go with the bottom six, who are getting destroyed out there. Uh, Not almost on a nightly basis, but I mean, here's tonight's game, and I know you can poke holes in plus minus, and you can say, well, the goalie sieved one in, which is true, and sometimes that's the whole play. Um, but they're not getting anything back at the good end. Tonight you have, let's just do this in numerical order. Kyle Turris -1, Derek Ryan -2, Warren Fogle -1, Brendan Perlini -2, Zach Castian -2, Ryan McLeod -1. Right? They had 3 goals. It was 4-0 for Winnipeg. They had a power play goal, which was also scored against Fogle and McLeod, and 3 even strength goals that were all scored against the bottom 6. And you can say, well, the first line needs to score more goals, but geez, you can't be climbing up a deficit like that. The bottom 6 needs to hold their own, and it's not been happening. And they didn't create a whole lot tonight. There was one good play. Brendan Perlini actually had a good shot from the high slot that Kyle Turris was in the goalie's kitchen and made it for a very difficult save. But that's few and far between. That kind of stuff is happening. And it's not like they're ramping it up with the physicality, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But we're just not we're not seeing them. Tonight was a game I thought Winnipeg was really kind of throwing their weight around, and Edmonton didn't respond very well at all. And that's part of the bottom 6's job, is to at least answer the bell on that part of thing and lay a few licks on the other guys once in a while.
Seems like a design flaw of the team. I mean, if you have like Turris, Perlini, McLeod, Ryan, none of those guys are physical players, and I don't mind any of. Well, I'm not a big fan of Turris. I don't really see what he brings, but replace Turris with a much more physical, hustling hockey player, and you'll be better off in your bottom 6 right there. Like, that's an obvious change they could make right away. Just a same kind of player, AHL, NHL replacement, waiver wire kind of guy, but a different style of player. So the Turris experiment has gone on long enough. Perlini, that was his first grade A shot of the year on net. Mm-hmm. And, he does hustle and hit sometimes. So maybe if he gets his head around, they can work with him on a different role in the NHL. But they got to work with him on it because he needs to be even more physical than he is. I've liked Ryan off and on. Like, let's give him a little time. I mean, that was a terrible bad luck play, like one of his minus marks, where he got bowled over from behind by Wheeler. Should have been a penalty. That's a penalty. And I can see why it wasn't called on a certain level. Like, it was just almost, you could think it was inadvertent. Although when you watch the replay, you think, no, that was advertent. And Wheeler did it and got away with it.
Wheeler or Lowry, anyway, whoever it was like huge compared to Ryan, and just steamrolled him. And then the pass went right through that part of the ice, and they broke in over the line, and the Oilers were back on their heels. I think even Koskinen was kind of looking around at the ref saying, how in the hell did you let that go? And, and of course, Nikolai Ehlers, of all guys, to get the free shot, and he pounded it home. It was a rocket off of his stick. So just the fourth line, just to finish up there, the bottom 6. And that's been well defined on this team for a number of years now by any time that none of McDavid, Draisaitl, or Nugent Hopkins are on the ice, because those 3 guys are always, among the 3 of them, they define the top 6. This year, bottom 6 has played without the 3 of them just over 4 hours of hockey, and they scored 7 goals and allowed 19. 1.65 goals per hour for 4.47 goals against per hour. Like, they're not mucking it up and keeping it. I mean, that's horrible.
That's an alarming stat.
How is it ever? And it's every year for Edmonton. They've never fixed it.
Yeah, Tippett's got to get on this right away. Or Holland. This isn't a Tippett
Yeah.
issue. This is a Holland issue now. It's
Mm-hmm.
gone on long enough. And again, you
100%.
just you can switch out players fairly easily here. Like you also have Tyler Benson, who hasn't played that much, but hasn't been as bad as most of them. Like you can switch out players, and if you don't think it's Benson, bring in two other guys. Bring in two or three other guys. Like it's not that hard. You don't have to give up, you know, treasure, great treasure, in order to find bottom four players.
Yeah.
Bring in, Colton Sevier. I don't know why he's not playing. Like he's been better than the other guys.
He's the best defensive player of
Yes,
a
he's
lot of them,
defensively
I think.
responsible,
But
unlike
he's got no
Turris.
offense either. But that number that I just gave you, that includes Sevier, it includes Benson, it includes all of them.
Yeah,
The ones that were playing tonight or not. It's the bottom six collectively over 15 games, 7-4, 19 against. So they're down like 0.8 goals per game in 5-on-5 play. Anytime they've got their big guys sitting on the bench, they're just not able to saw off the other part of the game.
else sign Adam Cracknell to an NHL contract and bring him up. Seriously, what has he got? Let me just check here.
He's a good player. He's old, but he's a good player.
Well,
But I'm not sure that he's going to raise the level. I mean, in the NHL, he's a bottom sixer,
yeah, exactly.
but
But
maybe anyway. I don't
12
know
points
what
in
they can
12
do to
AHL
address
games.
it. But, hmm?
12 points in 12 AHL games for Cracknell.
Yeah, he's a good player down there for sure.
I think he is too. Anyway, I'm not saying that's the answer, but it's
Right.
time to shake it up because it's just they're kind of weird players to have there. Like if Ryan kills penalties at least, but what did Perlini and Turris do in particular? What's their job? What's their role on the team? Like I don't even know. So it's not working. Time to
Mhm.
make a change with two replacement level wingers and see what happens. Your good thing, Bruce.
Well, I'm going to credit the Oilers' power play for the one bit of pushback that the Oilers had in this game early in the third period when the score got safe enough ahead for Winnipeg that the referees' game management skills started to take charge of things, and they called one penalty on Winnipeg, and then they had to call the second one. They, the guy who ran, was it Logan Stanley, ran Draisaitl from behind,
Ugh,
face first into the glass.
5 minutes, man.
2 minutes for that, right? 4 minutes for an inadvertent stick, but 2 minutes for running a guy face first in a star player, NHL, get your shit together, face first into the glass. Anyway, said star player, thankfully, he got up and he stayed on the ice, and clearly he had his dander up at that point, and he quickly pumped home a pair to make it 4-2. But it was too little, too late. Winnipeg had a commanding lead, and they weren't about to blow it. But the quick pushback from the power, especially the first goal, it took them about 10 seconds, and the same guy that had gotten fouled was pounding one home. Uh, he only had 4 shots in the whole game, and they all came on that extended power play sequence. He had 2 shots on the play where he got hammered into the boards, and then he had 2 more that went into the net. So, but how many times did he get cross-checked in this game, David? Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah, I was in County, Bruce.
Yeah, I wasn't counting either, but it was a significant number. I mean, Pionk and Stanley were laying the lumber on every time, and uh, it was.
I gave McDavid a bonus point in his mark in his game grade
For
for the
hammering
for the hit
Pionk.
for hammering Pionk,
Mm-hmm.
who
So,
promptly embellished.
yeah.
Yeah, it was great to see Draisaitl unleash the executioner's shot, Bruce, and score that goal. I mean, it's always great to see him play. What is he? I was going to look that up. How many goals does he have this year now?
17 goals in 15 games total. On one-timers, probably close to 10 of them.
Wow. Yeah, I could look that up. I should.
Even the second one, I was pretty much a one-timer, I thought, but not the executioner shot, but a quick shot that found the target. So that's at least they made the score a little bit respectable. But make no mistake, the to me hungrier team won that game.
Yeah, a hungrier team, a better team. tonight. Yeah. Oh, they have an up. Yeah, 17 goals, 15 games. Amazing. What an amazing. He's had himself a year. He's having himself a year.
More goals and assists. I never thought I would see the day that Leon Draisaitl would have more goals and assists. Even though I expect a lot of goals, he's really become a shooter. He's most dangerous as a shooter.
The next best guy, Ovechkin, has 12 goals in 15 games. Kreider, 12 goals in 15. And Kyle Connor, who's a real sniper, too, 12 goals in 15 games. That Connor is a dangerous hockey player. He's an excellent hockey player on the attack. My good thing was Tyson Barrie, Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
All the other Oilers D-men were kind of leaking grade A shots against Evan Bouchard. We had him tagged for 6 major mistakes on grade A shots against it. So another rough night for Bouchard. Barrie 0, not one major mistake on a grade A shot against at even strength. Although there was on the power play, he and McDavid gave up a breakaway there, but he played very well. He had a really strong game. He was good on the attack. He made a lot of contributions on the attack. Strong decision making. That's his A game, and we see Tyson Barrie's A game every third game.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we see probably a B game, and then we see a D game. So that's Tyson Barrie's kind of run on the season. Great to see that A game though.
He's fun to watch when he's playing well, isn't he?
Yeah, it's interesting how sharp he can be when he's really good, and his inconsistency is also interesting actually, because he's not a young player, he's a veteran player, and maybe it just comes with someone who handles the puck so much and takes risks on the attack. But it's almost like when he doesn't take those risks and just decides to play like I'm going to be a defensive defenseman tonight and chip in on the attack when I can. It's when he does that, when that's his mindset. And I'm just guessing here, I have no idea, but it seems like that's when I see that in his play, when he keeps it simple, he's a good NHL defenseman who can play in a top 4 role. But again, that's just maybe every second game at most that we see that Tyson Barrie. But again, good to see.
So six for him for Bouchard, 5 for Nurse. Did you say?
Yeah.
And how many for Keith and Cece?
3 for Keith
strength.
At even strength. This is all even strength. 1 for Cece, just the 1 for Cece.
Oh wow, okay. And they got torched on that power play a couple times too.
They did. It was not Cece's best game. It was not Keith's best game, but it was Tyson Barrie's best game. We're done the bad things. All right, what's your number? What's your number, Bruce?
Okay, my number is 60%. And this is the percentage of hits by Edmonton forwards that Kyler Yamamoto had in this game. 5'8", 153 pounds. He had 3 hits, and the other 11 forwards on the Oilers had 2 hits in a physical game against a rival team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year, and they brought 2 hits to the table, all but the smallest forward on the team. Not acceptable. Oilers, get it together. You've got to push back. There was one play, David, where Kassian or Fogle, I can't remember which one, dumped it into the end boards, and they both went to the end boards, and I thought, okay, here comes a hit or two, and they both hit the boards. They both skated past the Winnipeg guy, and they hit the boards on either side of him. Well, that's not exactly going to get her done. And I mean, they were talking about on post-game show about how the third line's got big bodies that can push back. Well, Fogle, 0 hits, and
Kassian 1.
Kassian 1, McLeod 0. And the Oilers had 5 forwards tonight who had neither a shot or a hit, nor a hit. 0-0 for Turris, Ryan, Fogle, McLeod, and Nugent Hopkins. No shots, no hits.
Kyle Clifford's on waivers. Or he was. Well, this is where we're at.
Throw hits, yeah. So, and it wasn't like, it's not like there was one game, maybe it was in Buffalo, where it was like 8-6 on hits in the whole game, and it was just a no-hitter. Winnipeg was playing it hard, and Edmonton had to push back, and I just didn't think they did. And I'm actually concerned about how this team's going to match up against a physical team that doesn't mind taking the extra shot, like Winnipeg Jets were doing consistently through this game. I mean, Draisaitl himself was pushing back. McDavid pushed back. Well, where are the foot soldiers in that part of the game?
Yeah, Pionk 5 hits, Brendan Dillon 5 hits,
Yep.
Dubois 5 hits.
Mm-hmm.
So they had some guys who had it going on them
Yeah.
with the hitting, and the Oilers did not. Bruce, the grade A shots were 16 to 13 overall, but my number is what they were at even strength. Winnipeg had 13 grade A shots. The Oilers had 6 at even strength. So this is just part of the Jets' domination. Without and the Oilers only scored their goals in the power play. This was not a close game at even strength.
Yeah.
This was now it's the end of a long road trip, and their number one goalie's out and blah blah blah. But this was a good embracing wake up call of all the games this year. I think in some ways this was the wake up call to the GM about where this team is at and what some of the issues on this team might be. I think they can. I think they can tighten it up. I'm not upset with their D-men. I think that they have the D-men probably to win. They might need to trade for a tougher third pairing left D-man if Cuckoo doesn't step up. Russell seems to have lost a step this year, I'm saying. So, but there are solvable problems on this team. You got a top six, which competes well. Hyman is a good player. He's made a
Mm-hmm.
huge difference to the team.
Yep.
Pugliarvi's really come along. They've got a top six. Yamamoto's a good player. They've got the players to play with McDavid and Draisaitl now. They have got to get, though, some better role players. Fogle started out strong. Ryan started out strong. They've dropped off. Cassian started out strong. Maybe those guys can recover. So those are 3 guys you're keeping. Everybody else, you
Yeah.
can replace everybody else. See if you can get better players. And I'm not saying you must replace everyone else, but you got to bring in 1 or 2 guys that are bigger, more physical hockey players. Bob Stauffer has only mentioned the name Lawson Krause a billion times so far this year. So maybe that's in the works down the road, but maybe move faster than slower if you think Lawson Krause is the answer. And I don't know if he is or not, but someone like that, a bigger physical hockey player is needed on this team on the bottom line because it doesn't where's Matt Hendricks when you need him? Like that's the guy they need, right? Or Alex Chase on Bruce. He at least he added something. He was good on the power play, and he was a strong defensive. He was a strong defensive winger and a physical winger. What are these guys?
Mm.
So you can't blame everything on the bottom 2 lines, but when they're getting outscored like that, you kind of can too.
It just worries me, David, that this kind of conversation that we're having right now was the exact same kind of talk that preceded Steve Tambellini going out and trading for Mike Brown, or my favorite when Peter Chiarelli went out and got Alex Petrovich and Brandon Manning on the same day after San Jose handed Oilers their lunch after Christmas there that one year, and they said, well, we need cycle busting defensemen. I know, let's get 2 of them, and of course they didn't move the needle either.
But they were trying to plug a much bigger hole there in a much more desperate fashion, Bruce. I'm going to say in terms of the comparison of the 2 situations.
Well, I'm just saying it's
Not
the same kind of conversing that people say they got to
fair
get
enough,
tough.
but
They got to.
I think that there could be a solution here. I think if with some good scouting and some good, heads up GMing here, you could find that player. I,
Right.
you know, they needed to be able to break the cycle either by physical play or by passing, which was what they really needed. And they, of course, Chiarelli misread it again. He went for the heavy hockey solution, him and Hitchcock, instead of bringing in some people who can move the puck. Although they did bring in that guy from Ottawa, right, Weidman, I think, and
Yep.
that didn't. So they tried a number of different things. Nothing worked because nothing was going to work. The team was a bit of a mess then. So this team isn't a mess. This is a good team. Just a few holes to plug, so you can saw off that even strength thing. Hey, play Colton Sevier if he's not causing problems on defense. If he's not, at least you have a solid defensive winger. Find 3 solid defensive hockey players who are not going to give up goals against when they're on the ice. That isn't the guys they have right now in those roles. Find guys who are then, and crank. You hope that Fogle, Cassian, and Ryan can crank it up, which I think they can. They started out strong. I think Fogle and Ryan can. We'll see with Cassian. He's had a bit of a strange year, and we'll see how it goes with him.
He got back in the lineup tonight, but to me, he went through the motions. Like,
Totally did.
he had one floater of a shot from outside the face-off circle where he was in position to let fly, but he just lobbed one into the breadbasket. That was his shot. Whatever his hit was, I don't remember it, but he certainly didn't light anybody up. And it's, I mean, being a competent bottom sixer, I mean, if that, a $3.2 million cap hit, you need to be doing something to move the needle. Well, I saw nothing from that player tonight. Now, I single him out, and I shouldn't, because there's lots of other guys that didn't move the needle either. But the overall problem with the bottom six, I mean, we went through it with the bad things earlier. So,
alrighty. Well, let's maybe we can. I don't know if you taped the soccer game. I didn't, but I think you probably go watch it on replay. And there's a scene that's all over Twitter right now of the Canadian players, I think, scoring a goal and jumping in a snowbank, which is just pure joy. So let's leave it on that great moment for Canada, for this Canadian soccer team, whose best days evidently are yet to come. And it's great to see the Canadian men step up, just like the Canadian women have in soccer. The men have it going on, and they've got some primetime talent, Bruce. They've got some players who are at the very top of their leagues in terms of positional play and in Europe. So
they got a heck of a coach in John Herdman too. That was a dominant coach on the women's side for a long time and made the transition to the men's game, and now he's succeeding there. So I think we're dealing with a legitimately strong coach for the national program, and that's something that's not always been the case. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I wish I'd seen these games. I mean, I find actually
like to go to them. Oh.
Yeah, I wish, but I find when the season's on, because I'm playing coaching hockey, and then there's our Oilers' responsibility. I don't have time for any other sports. I watch the odd Manchester United highlight package, like 10 minutes of a game, like that you can get. But other than that, I don't watch anything. So, all right, Bruce, thanks for talking tonight.
All right, thanks for listening, everyone. And Thursday night rematch against same team. They need to be ready for the start of the game against the Jets on Thursday, and if they're not, I will officially be very concerned. Right now, I'm just that concerned, but got to be ready to go against Winnipeg Jets at home on Thursday night.
Indeed. All righty.
Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast. Good night.
2 hour ranting.